Hello. It's good to see so many of you here. See you talking to each other already. I like that. Hope you've stayed dry today. If you're in Florida, if you're not in Florida, you're someplace cold. I hope you stayed warm. And wherever you are, hope you're safe and well. So, versa de Quesa. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Got to have atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present with us now. The fragrance of this incense fills our room, protects and guards our minds from wrong thinking. The fragrance of this incense unites us with precepts, concentration, and insight. We offer it for all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I shall become one with the Buddha. I resolve that I shall each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I shall become one with the Dharma. The gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for guidance. I shall become one with the Sangha. In the spirit of universal fellowship and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with the boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies, downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. So prepare to meditate. Forgot to bring my timer over here. I'll time this. We'll sit for about 10 minutes. So just basic breath meditation instruction tonight. I say basic. That doesn't mean it's not advanced. Doesn't mean it's easy. Breath meditation really can be your main practice for your entire life. Always helps to begin with a few deep breaths. Letting your abdominals be nice and relaxed so you can breathe freely. And then just breathe naturally. You don't need to control your breath. You don't need to do anything special. Just breathe comfortably, naturally. Resting your attention primarily on the out breath. And find a place where it's easy to feel the breath, where it's comfortable. Tip of the nose, rise and fall of your belly. If your mind is very restless, you can count your breaths. Breathe in. As you exhale, count one and hold the one for the duration of the out breath. Not out loud, just silently to yourself. And then two and on up to 10. And then start over. If your mind is kind of settled, you can just use an anchor word or phrase. I like Budo. Just means wake up. Bud on the in breath, Do on the out breath. And you can follow your breath more closely. Each breath, noticing that there's a beginning a continuation, feeling of fullness. The exhalation begins, continues, feeling of emptiness. And just try to stay fully with each breath. When the mind wanders, which it will, just take another deep breath if you feel like it, just to recenter and just return to the breath calmly, compassionately. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now, and offering flowers, candles, and incense, training the mind. Great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to the 16 guardians and all protectors of the Dharma and their relations throughout space and time, to all ancestors of this Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May penetrating light dispel the darkness of ignorance. Let all karma be resolved in the mind flower bloom in eternal spring. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. May their vows be fully realized. May they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for those suffering from violence and those who grieve for them, for those living in oppression, for all who are imprisoned who should be free, for all refugees from violence, hunger, and catastrophes, man-made or natural. We pray for the health and well-being of those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, those working toward the healing of those afflictions. We pray for those suffering from COVID-19, those working to protect and treat them, and for those grieving, to those lost for this pandemic. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Mahaprajna, Paramita. Hi, what have you been talking about? See all these posts. Oh, just saying hello. Good to have you here. So, on Wednesday mornings, so I have this Dharma talk prepared. And I decided about 5 minutes before we started that I didn't feel like talking about it. Life is like that sometimes. I'll talk about it some other time. No bad reason. My heart just wasn't in it. So, which is fine. So, but I'll talk about something, I promise. So this morning, I was lead on Wednesday mornings. I lead a group of Stetson staff and faculty. Small group, but we meet on Teams, which is kind of like Zoom, on Wednesday mornings for about a half hour. And we do about 15 minutes of just silent meditation. And people bring readings if they want to, and that kind of stuff. It's very informal, but it's very nice. People really look forward to having that half an hour together. And recently we've gotten some new folks, new as in not, they heard about it and decided they'd like to join us. So, which is nice. And there was a woman this morning who I don't know very well. I've met her, but I don't know her too all that well. And she asked for some instruction before I rang the bell, which, I tell people when they ask to join the group, if they want instructions, say so. And so I gave instructions for basic breath meditation, kind of like I did. And it always occurs to me that that's probably the simplest object of meditation. And sometimes people will talk to me about that as if like, what's next? What's the more advanced thing? And it's interesting in meditation. I was thinking about this, that more advanced meditations are not necessarily more complicated. In fact, the most advanced form of meditation there is, I think, is to just sit. So in Japanese, there's a word for it, shikantazi. I think I've said that right. It basically means just sit. So obviously you don't just sit. You don't just sit on your cushion and just let your mind wander, which a lot of times people think that meditation is kind of like that. I'll hear people talking casually about meditation, and somebody will say, "Oh, I meditate while I'm walking my dog. I just let my mind go wherever it wants to go," and which is not meditation. I mean, it can be very pleasant. Certainly, it can be relaxing and calming and all those kinds of things. If it's a nice day and that kind of stuff, it could be especially pleasant and calming. But that's not meditation, or at least not as Buddhism deals with meditation. Because meditation is a way of training your mind, right? So to just sit doesn't really sound like training much. But what you do is you sit and very carefully watch your mind. And the actual practice is to just let go of everything that comes up. And um, so that's when I'm on retreats, that's pretty much what I do. When I'm not at a retreat, it kind of depends on what else is going on. Honestly, during times of COVID, my concentration has been crap some days, because things are just different. There's a lot of stress and weirdness and all of that. And when you're living in the world, as we do, we live in the world, um, and life kind of goes where life goes. It can be a challenge to get your mind to settle down sometimes to the point where you can just sit. Right? So there's a lot of like online meditation communities and stuff where they'll throw that around as if it's just the most simplest thing in the world. I would just sit. But the reality is that, to look at what your mind is doing and to try to stop it from clinging to things is a lot of work. It takes some effort. It's very easy to just sit and let your mind just drift and go to what you want to get done today and what you're worried about happening tomorrow and all that kind of stuff. That's easy to do, although that creates stress. So there's the irony there is that what creates stress is easy. What doesn't create stress is hard, is a challenge, right? So I was thinking about, I was thinking about Venerable Kai-Chin today. Here, let me show you something. So some of you were at White Sands the Sunday after my birthday. I saw this. So somebody gave me this, and it's his calligraphy, which is sort of like the way Vietnamese is written, although it's in English, and you might not even be able to read it. It says, "Every step of the journey is the journey." Every step of the journey is the journey. It's beautiful. It's kind of abstract looking. You kind of have to know what you're looking for, right, to read it. But I'll finish telling you why I was thinking about Kai-Tien, and then I'll come back to this. Every step of the journey is the journey thing, because that is an amazingly profound thing when you unpack that. It seems like an internet meme could be there, but really, when you unpack that, that's very deep stuff. So I was thinking about him after we got through with the morning meditation thing, and I was kind of putting things away, and I saw that and started thinking about Kai-Tien, and started thinking about this one English retreat. So for those of you who haven't been to White Sands, Venerable Kai-Tien is the abbot, and he founded it. He's not there now. He's in Texas now. So I'm the kind of the main lecturer these days. But back when we first got to know each other, he would do these, I think 3 or 4 times a year, would do these one day. He called them retreats. It's really more an event. Wasn't much of a retreat. There was too much going on for it to feel like a retreat, honestly, to me. But it was basically a day of sort of getting introduced to White Sands and get some basic meditation instruction. Very similar to that which we did during the guided meditation. That's kind of that's kind of the basis of his teaching at the beginning anyway. I don't study meditation with him, so I don't know where he goes from there. But that's kind of the basics of teaching. So he used to do this thing to me where he would send me an email and he'd say, "Sensei Morris, I'd like for you to come to the English retreat. Please be here on this day," and whatever day it was, "and please prepare a 20-minute talk about," and he would the benefits of mindfulness, or something like that. And so I would do this. I would put together a 20-minute talk on the benefits of mindfulness, and I'd show up and I'd do the retreat, and he would, um, we'd talk in the morning. We would have a cup of tea before the thing started, and he'd say, "I want you to give your talk. Right after lunch, you can give your talk." And and then in the morning, during like 2/3 of the way through the morning, he'd suddenly like stop talking, and then he'd go, "And now Sensei Morris is going to talk for a half hour about," and he'd throw out some topic, you know, completely from out of the blue. One day it was on like Metta Bhavana, or talk about the Metta or the Brahma Viharas or something, just completely out of left field. So, which and actually, once I got used to it, then a couple of things. I would no longer prepare my 20-minute talk since he wasn't going to have me give it anyway. And the other is, it's actually very, um, it's really a good way to give a talk, to have, it's almost like I've asked you a question, now please answer it. It's really a lot easier for me to answer questions than it is for me to try to figure out what it is that I should talk about that's going to benefit you in some way to hear, I mean, it just, I always, I find that much more immediate and intimate to know what's on your mind and then to try to respond to that in some way than to stand up and give a speech, or sit down and give a speech, because we don't stand up and give speeches much in Buddhist temples, but you know what I mean. So anyway, one day he did this to me, and it happened to be either like right around this time of the year, which is when Bike Week happens. I think Bike Week's a few weeks away. Maybe it already happened. I'm not sure. It's all different this year anyway because of COVID. So I don't know if they're even having it. But anyway, it was either around this time of year or it was in the fall, in October for Biketoberfest, one or the other. And so I had seen all these motorcycles on the road on my way there, and I knew that there would be even more of them, and traffic would be kind of rough on my way back. And so this came to mind, and I was thinking about the meditation instruction that he had just given, and so and he had talked about a concept that actually is referred to in the I think it's in the Satipatthana Sutta, or maybe the Anapanasati Sutta. I don't remember which, or maybe both. Which is the instructions for meditation on the body or the breath, depending on which one it was. And the Buddha says, the monk goes into the forest, he sits down at the base of a tree or finds an empty dwelling or whatever, and mindful he breathes in, and mindful he breathes out, and ardent, alert, and aware. He remains ardent, alert, and aware. Yeah, so he was talking about that. He used a different translation of those three words. I don't remember what it was, but um, I like ardent, alert, and aware because it's alliterative. It's easy to remember three A's. And so I started talking about this as in using going for a motorcycle ride on the Ormond Loop, which is this very scenic loop. I might have talked about this online not too long ago. I don't remember. But there's a scenic loop from Ormond Beach up to Flagler Beach, or that somewhere up there, that general vicinity. I think it's Flagler Beach. And then you go up the beach side, cross the bridge, back down the mainland side. And on the beach side, there's all these dunes and you see the ocean and all that stuff. And then coming back, you come back through a couple of state parks with the oak trees and the Spanish moss and all that kind of stuff. It's beautiful. And so a lot of people come down on Dirt Bike Week, and that's one of the things to do. You get on your motorcycle and you ride. So the practice of meditation regardless of technique, should be training the mind. And kind of the three elements then to training the mind are those three A's: ardent, alert, aware. There's a lot of other talk in the Buddhist scripture about that: ardent, alert, and aware. But basically, it means that you got to make a commitment. That's the ardent part. You got to decide, I'm going to sit here and watch my breath, or whatever it is that you're going to do, and put some energy into that. Making a firm decision is useless without some energy behind it. You know, I can, I can decide that I'm going to learn Vietnamese, and I can make a really strong commitment to learning Vietnamese. But if I don't put some energy into learning Vietnamese, ain't nothing going to happen. I know this because for 5 years I've been wanting to learn Vietnamese, and I know a smattering of words of Vietnamese. So, uh, so I'm not a good example for ardency in regard to that particular area of my life. But when it comes to meditation, you can't just sit and wool gather. You have to put some energy into staying with your object of meditation, and that's ardency. Second, alert. You can't just sit and zone out. You're going to have to deal with the five hindrances. Probably every time you meditate, you're going to deal with at least one of them. What are the five hindrances? The five hindrances are sensual desire, which doesn't necessarily mean sexual desire. All right. It could be, wonder what's in the refrigerator that would be interesting, that would be fun to snack on later, or wonder what's on TV, or, sure, it would be just nice to go sit and prop my feet up and relax. Those are sensual pleasures. And so it's desire for a sensual pleasure, something that comes in through the sense doors that makes you feel better. Aversion and anger. So, thinking about things that happened in the past that you're ticked off about, those kinds of things, those will derail your concentration very quickly. Restlessness and remorse. I think one of these days I'm gonna do a real study on what the Pali means in these things, but basically restlessness, is just general agitation. I don't want to sit here. And the translation a lot of times restlessness and remorse. I'm not sure that remorse is as big an issue as just worrying. We're kind of getting caught up in all of the stuff that you got to do and all of those things, that kind of make you generally sort of nervous, and that will get you jittery and get you up off your cushion. Sloth and torpor is the next one. Just basically sleepiness, tiredness, or just kind of lazy-mindedness. You don't really want to work at this. Again, it's sort of the opposite of ardency, right? You can just kind of sit there and zone out. That's it. But also sleepiness, and sometimes sleepiness happens because of a legitimate reason. Sometimes it's a distraction. All of these things, really, the mind can use as a distraction to keep from having to look at what's really going on. And then the last one is doubt. Somebody was asking me about doubt. Maybe it was last Thursday night. I can't remember what the context was. It might have been one of the verses from the Dhammapada. It's talking about the kind of the dangers of doubt. So by this, we don't mean healthy skepticism. We don't mean that you should have blind faith in the teachings. You need a little faith. Faith's not a bad thing. If you don't think that there's reason to do this practice, that it looks like it's going to be beneficial to you, you won't start. right? Um, but to keep the faith in Buddhism, you practice and then you realize the results of the practice. And then you realize that, I mean, you realize as in embody the results of the practice. And then you recognize that you have embodied some results. In other words, you find that you have transformed in some way. And sometimes those are big, you know, bolts of lightning from out of the heavens or whatever kind of moments, but usually they're fairly subtle. Just recognizing that you're not impatient about something that you would have been impatient about before, or that you're more tolerant of something that you would have not have tolerated before, something like that. So those things are so when it arises in meditation, usually it takes the form of this isn't getting me anywhere. I'm not getting any better. I'm not a good meditator. I sit down to meditate and my mind just jumps all over the place. See, there's something wrong with me. I'm not going to get anything out of this. Okay? That's the kind of thing that derails you. It's the sort of thing where you go on a diet and you blow it one day and you figure it's all over. You're not going to, and you're off the diet for good now. You know, you have to recognize that the mind is going to wander, that your attention is going to drift, and that's part of the process. And part of the process is bringing it back. So that's alert. Alert. If you were riding a motorcycle, you have to stay alert to the obstacles in the road. You have to keep yourself in the saddle, just like you keep yourself on the cushion. There's a guy named Fleet Mall. He's a Roshi now. He wasn't a Roshi when I did this program with him, but he's with Zen Peacemakers, and he had founded a long time ago what was at one time the Prison Dharma Network, and I'm not even sure that still exists now, or if it's just sort of been rolled into what Zen Peacemakers is doing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I took a course. They offered a course called Path of Freedom. And basically, I learned to be a facilitator in this. And it was pretty much a meditation course for incarcerated people, people in prisons and at-risk youth in those kinds of programs for at-risk youth and that kind of thing. And basically combined meditation with some other tools for living a little bit more skillfully. And I can't remember what I was talking about Fleet Mall. It'll come back to me. Well, anyway, he oh yeah, and one of the sort of maxims that we use with them, we use these sort of little uh, sort of turning words, uh, little trigger phrases, mantras, whatever you want to call them, things to tell yourself to recenter your practice. Was they use the term stay in, hold your seat, which they explained came from horseback riding. That there's a principle that kind of no matter what the horse does, stay in your seat, right? And my experience with horseback riding is very limited. I did grow up in Texas, and I did ride horses occasionally, but not very much. But I understand the concept. You have a plan. You're going to ride this horse, and then you kind of have to adapt to the way the horse moves. If you want to stay in the seat, you can't kind of control the saddle with your backside. You kind of have to let the movement of the horse guide what you do with your body in order to stay in the saddle. And it's kind of the same thing with holding your seat while you're meditating. The mind is going to move, so just bring it back to this place of balance and equilibrium over and over again. And that's part of being alert. And then being aware, is don't phase out, don't drift off into the past or the future. Be here and alert to what's happening here and now. So, the the biker metaphor was, don't if you drive if your goal is to complete this loop, this motorcycle ride that day, then when you drive by the biker bar and see a bunch of bikes around, you don't stop and drink beer instead, right? You stay on your path. You stay on what you're trying to do. Um, and you but yet you are aware of what's going on so that you don't miss things. If you're off in your mind rehashing something that happened last night or looking forward to something that's going to happen later today or whatever, you're not on the bike here and now. You're going to miss the cool stuff. You're going to miss the reasons that you went for the motorcycle ride. You're going to miss the dolphins jumping on the waves offshore, or how pretty the light is coming down through the oak trees and the Spanish moss, which is what you're doing this for. And you all know what I mean. You've all gone for a drive, probably gone to the store or something, and go to the store and come all the way back and not have any idea what happened, right? Because your mind was somewhere else the whole time. So when you're meditating, you want your mind to be here. You want to be aware of what's happening. So, and that doesn't take any advanced technique to do. You do that just sitting. You can do that just watching your breath. You can do that cultivating the Brahma Viharas. Ardent, alert, and aware is important in all of those kinds of settings. So back to every step of the journey is the journey, right? So I was just thinking about how incredibly profound that was after I gave this meditation instruction and stuff and was thinking about Kaiten. There's the obvious metaphor between the Ormond Loop and the every step of the journey thing. The reason you do that bike ride is not to get to the end. It's to experience the whole thing, right? If you're just set on, well, I can't wait till I get this over with, you're going to miss all that stuff, right? The point of doing it is the doing of it. So in life, life is not necessarily a scenic route, right? Every step of the journey is the journey. Can include hiking through the airport with way too many bags and on a crowded day when you're about to miss your connection, right? It can include having to, walk to the bus on a dirty city street. It can include all kinds of things coming up that you hadn't planned on and anticipated. And so we think we're on this certain path, and then we find that the path doesn't go where we thought it was going to go. But that's okay, because the journey is not the destination. The journey is the how you get there part. And even at times of great difficulty, you can find things that are really incredible around you. Somebody, I was on Facebook earlier posting, join me tonight, for the Dharma talk. And I looked and somebody, I don't remember who it was, but it was one of my Facebook friends had posted, how you can do these big blocks of background now with lettering on it. Had posted one of those. It was real big, and it said, "People suck." And there are all these people down below, all their friends going, "Yeah, people suck," and posting, all these little gifs and memes and crap related to that. And I get it, because there are some really unpleasant people around sometimes, and even the most pleasant of us can be, not all that pleasant occasionally. But there's really good things go on, and so we're going to circle back to Ash Wednesday here. So today is Ash Wednesday, and we had made this plan because of COVID. Usually we have an Ash Wednesday chapel. When I and Christy and Willie came to Stetson, we found that the Ash Wednesday service was basically one guy showing up who was like the youth pastor from the Catholic Church. And he would just kind of talk for a while and then apply the ashes. And nothing wrong with that. I mean, he's fine. He was a nice guy. He gave a nice talk, and all of that. But we thought, well, we should put a little more attention into this. Let's make it a chapel service. And so we would get the organist to come in and play a prelude on this big, beautiful pipe organ that they have at Stetson. And excuse me. And we'd have a student come in and read some scripture and stuff like that. And then we had priests come over and do some prayers and the official service and the imposition of the ashes. I got a cough again. So because of COVID, we couldn't do all that. We didn't even know for sure if we were going to be able to be in the chapel. And so we had planned to be out on the green with a tent set up for the priest and me, and students and staff and faculty who wanted to could come up and get the ashes. So yesterday, I looked at the weather forecast and saw that it's going to be rainy all day. So that wasn't going to work. And so then we found that there's a large, actually very nice meeting room at Stetson called the Stetson Room. And we managed to get permission to do it there. So the priest came over, and it was a small group. But the priest at the Catholic Church here is such a nice guy. And he was so pleased to have this opportunity to do this for this relatively small group of people who really needed their faith right now. It's not the faith that I identify with, but the Ash Wednesday teaching is about as Buddhist as teachings get, because it's really all about impermanence and appreciating this moment as the moment that you have to practice in. And the people who were there were just wonderful. They had all, we'd announced it would usually be one thing. We'd announce it was going to be something different. And then we had to announce it was going to be something different, And so, but they were all just grateful to be able to be there and have these prayers and these blessings and have the imposition of the ashes, which wasn't even done the way they're used. Usually it involves a cross on the forehead with ashes and oil, I think. And now because of they don't want to make contact. So the Council of Catholic Bishops had said, sprinkle the ashes on their head. And it turns out that there's an Old Testament thing about that happening. And the priest found that connection, between this Old Testament moment. And sorry, it's not my tradition. I'm not that familiar with the scripture, but that this thing happened, and the people, as an observance, recognizing impermanence and the importance of this moment, this practice, this connection to the divine, having ashes sprinkled on their head. It was really beautiful. So, and if we were all caught up in the fact that life wasn't going the way life is supposed to go, we would have missed that step of the journey. If we were caught up on what the anticipated end result was, we wouldn't have been there for this. We might have been there physically, but not spiritually. And and again, even though it's not my tradition, it's just such a profound moment. And I said in my opening remarks that I'm a Buddhist by ordination, but as a human being, if you're open to the journey, you find the truth everywhere. It doesn't have to be wrapped in, a certain package. It doesn't have to be a certain image for you to bow to. truth is everywhere you look. So anyway, for a guy who didn't really know what he was going to say, I managed to talk for quite a while. Any questions or any comments? Anything you want to know or say? Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. Um, and I hope that you have a good rest of your evening. And if you're coming tomorrow, I will see you on Zoom, and or I will see you Sunday morning at White Sands Buddhist Center. Have a good night.